Welcome to another edition of the Teachers on Fire Roundtable, my opportunity to connect with other educators who are doing great work to spark your thinking and ignite your professional practice. I'm joined today by a panel of EdTech podcasters. I'm not actually an EdTech podcaster myself, but I am joined by six other EdTech podcasters who are what I would consider experts in this space of EdTech. It's been quite a year, and I was just recalling a great meme that came out in March, thinking about the pivot that we all made. Teacher being a streamer or YouTuber isn't a real job, and then teachers very quickly having to pick up some new skills. It's been that kind of a year, and I want to talk to these EdTech podcasters to find out more about their thoughts, their perspectives here as we end 2020 and move into 2021. So welcome here. I'm going to start by asking you to introduce yourselves, talk about your context in education, and of course, tell us about your EdTech podcast. So Fonz, we'll open with you.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. As always, thank you, Tim, for the invite. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to finally meet you. Some of you virtually been following you for a while, and it's always great to be part of something like this and be able to learn. My name is Alfonso Mendoza. I am from South Texas, south of San Antonio. There is still Texas, south of San Antonio. It's actually in Edinburgh, Texas. I'm an instructional technologist for a local school district. Been at it for 4 years. And, pretty much I train teachers. We bring in the tech, we do the training, we do the how-to videos. And of course, from March 13th on, it's been a very busy season. So it's been great. And during that time, just decided to press record, just some advice that I followed, and started a podcast called My EdTech Life, where it's just all about connecting educators one show at a time and just bringing people, in the education field to share their stories and spotlight the amazing things that they're doing so others can connect with them and build up their PLF, as I call, their personal or professional learning family.
Great to have you here, Fonz. Eric.
My name's Eric Geis. I'm part of Got Tech, the podcast. I am a teacher from New Jersey, but I live in Pennsylvania. This year, the last 5 years, I was an EdTech coach, a media specialist. And this year I went back into the classroom and I'm teaching AP biology. It's a very interesting endeavor. I'm having some fun. I'm having some learning growth experiences, and I'm very happy to be here with such an amazing group. Thanks for inviting me, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to have you, Eric. And I've given him credit a few times, but I want to again point out that Eric created the amazing video intro here for the Teachers on Fire Roundtable. Gabriel, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Gabriel Carrillo, instructional technology specialist and fellow podcaster. It's nice to finally be here with everyone. I'm here in San Antonio, Texas, by way of Arizona, and then Southern California, born and raised in California. I'm the host, creator, producer, promoter, liaison, you name it, for the EdTech Bites podcast, a podcast all about my two passions, educational technology and food, because as we all know, the best conversations always happen when we break bread with great people. As soon as this pandemic is over, I can't wait to break bread in person with folks and have some great conversations while recording at the same time. So thank you. I'm honored to be here, and I look forward to the conversations that we're going to have. And had I waited half an hour longer, I'd be eating at the same time, gentlemen.
All right. Well, I guess I'm glad that we're starting now, but I want to say a quick shout out to our friends Brian, Dr. Dan. Let's see who else we have. Randall Sampson is here. Welcome to you. Seeing you in the comments. Jake, over to you.
I feel like Alice on the Brady Bunch right now in the center square here. I feel like I'm looking at you guys and smiling and pointing while you guys talk and everything, waving to everybody. Yeah, Chris. So I am Jake Miller. I live in Ohio. I am currently an 8th grade science teacher. Spent the 5 years prior as a tech coach, and before that, they were all in the classroom. I've been hosting the Educational Duct Tape podcast now for about 2 years, going on 2 years. Probably next week, I think, is my 2-year podcast anniversary. And on Educational Duct Tape, we talk about kind of some of the stuff we're going to talk about today, right? Which is when a teacher has something they need to achieve in their classroom, what technologies they turn to for it. So I'm always talking about how do we view technologies as tools rather than as the focus of what we're doing. We always look at them like that duct tape, like the roll of duct tape sitting behind me right here. It's that duct tape that we look to solve those problems. But right now, I'm just pumped to be with all you guys.
Thanks, Jake. And yeah, I love how you keep coming back to that on your podcast. Really appreciate your content. Chris.
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. Doesn't matter when you listen. Just glad that you're listening, right, Tim?
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me. Very happy to be a part of this panel and this conversation. My name is Chris Nessie. I'm a high school history teacher by day, university professor by night, podcaster by night, podcast editor by night, ninja by night. Lot of hats that I wear. And I host the House of EdTech podcast, which is coming up on finishing its 7th year. So very excited about that.
Congrats.
Very, very exciting. Some big milestones. And I know you've got a big showdown coming up on your show. We'll look forward to hearing more about that. Scott.
Hey everyone, Scott Nunes here, ELA teacher turned tech coach this year during the pandemic. It's been a whirlwind, and I have the TNT EdTech podcast that I co-host with Matthew Ketchum, and we focus on EdTech, different tools that we use in our district, and we invite guests on to share their teacher stories and share out some of their pro tips as well.
Great to have you, Scott. And I know it's been a busy morning for you. This is your third live stream of the day. So
yeah, powering through. You guys saw me run and go get my coffee. I needed a little power up.
That's important. Well, again, welcome to all of you here at the EdTech Podcasters Roundtable, and welcome to you if you're just joining us live or listening on the replay. Question number 2 is this. This year forced educators to pivot their practice more dramatically than ever before. I can't think of another year where we changed so dramatically. What was one EdTech tool that impressed you in terms of how it supported learning? Scott, I'll go right back to you.
Yeah, I would say it's kind of two, because you can use either one, really. I would say Google Slides or PowerPoint. So we use PowerPoint a lot because we use Teams to conference. So being able to embed our PowerPoints right into our webinars, right into our trainings has been great. We taught our teachers how to do that. I love the AI and machine learning behind the design option in there. I like the presenter coach feature that they're making available to educators. I like how it plugs into things, and I just like the whole suite. I've been really productive using the Microsoft Word transcribe feature for things that I also use for my slide decks in PowerPoint. I think it's just so good. As somebody that had to be a part of cranking out 110 webinars in 8 days at the start of the pandemic, PowerPoint was my friend.
All right. Fair enough. Well said. They're both very comparable. Chris, over to you.
I'm going to shoot my shot, and I'm going to share one of the items. There you go, Eric. I'm going to share one of the items that I'm really excited to share in the 2020 House of EdTech Smackdown, but I think it's that good. It should be shared. It shouldn't be waiting. And that is something that can be used in a Google Meet. It can be used in a Zoom call, and it deals with engaging students, and I absolutely love it. Clearly, this is not a paid deal, so let me just say I really fell in love this year with Brightful meeting games. The website is brightful.me. Everybody's scrambling for their pens and pencils. There you go. It's a way that you can host games inside of your Google Meet or your Zoom call, like I said. And I think it's great for all age levels. You can use it for free, which, if you know me, that's my favorite 4-letter F word. And there are conversational games, there are social games. You can customize these games. You can do trivia. And the one game that my students, 9th grade high school students, really enjoy is when we play Pictionary as a class inside of our Google Meet. They really like it when I download the final results at the end and put up all their drawings. So we've done some holiday themed ones. We've done some history themed ones, and it gives points. It's fun, and it's just a little more engaging. And it has allowed me here in the fall of 2020 to at times hear the voices of my students, because they get into gameplay. Surprise, kids like having fun. And if you can bring fun into the school environment, that's a win. So you definitely want to check out brightful.me/play, and it's Brightful Meeting Games.
All right, that is a new one to me. So I'm excited to be learning here already this morning. Jake.
Yeah, that's an exciting one, Chris. That's new to me as well. That's one of my favorite things about like being in a group like this, where even though we all like EdTech is our thing, EdTech is our jam, like somebody is still able to share something that we're all like, whoa, I hadn't heard about that. I got to go check that out, right? And we all literally started writing it down as he was saying it. The one thing that I've been super excited about this year has been Pear Deck. I've always liked Pear Deck and respected what Pear Deck did, but this year, the school that I teach at, we are lots of synchronous Zoom lessons. And I don't believe in having kids have their webcams on the entire time. I teach middle schoolers, and they certainly have times when they want those off. And so Pear Deck lets me see, number one, that they're there and with me. It lets me formatively assess them while I'm talking. They do that check-in at the beginning with the smiley face, frowny face, or kind of in-between face. I've had some situations where some kids were having a hard time, and without that, I wouldn't have known, and that brings up that prompt that lets me say, hey, I saw, you put in a frowny face today. Well, everything going okay. But then it really is helping me keep everybody active and engaged and participating, and helping me assess them during the lessons. I also think, other tools like Nearpod and ClassKick and AnswerPad would be fantastic. And that same kind of idea. The school that I work at is a Pear Deck school, though, and I've really loved it. I don't know how I would have survived these last 4 months without it.
Jake, I so appreciated a show. I want to say you put it out last year or maybe several months ago, where you really broke down Pear Deck, Nearpod, and all of those similar platforms. I felt like I had never gone so deep on how they lined up together. So I really appreciate the vote for Pear Deck. Absolutely. Gabriel.
I'm going to piggyback off of that. And to me, it came down to, it had to do these two things. It had to be a platform of delivery, and it had to be a platform of engagement, because like Jake said, we can't expect that 100% of our students are going to participate with those two words that I think should be canceled for 2021, synchronous and asynchronous. If I never hear those words again, I'll be just fine. But the cameras don't necessarily need to be on. We think of social emotional. There's things that kids don't want to be shared with the rest of their class in the background and things like that. And for me, I'm going with FlipPod or NearGrid. So those are the two tools that are always in the tuck. As a matter of fact, I actually have Nearpod and FlipGrid shirts back here as well. Those are my two tools, and I tried doing one or the other, and I couldn't, because they both coexist within one another. They both hit the social emotional. They both hit the, an assessment does not have to be a Google form. An assessment does not have to be a fill in the bubble. If you can explain to me why the rise over run is this, or why the adjective belongs in this part of the sentence versus that part, with your voice, and let me hear your thinking and your processing, that to me is the most important thing for an educator. Is I need to hear and see your thinking and hear you talking about that, and also engage in some activities in Nearpod. I mean, when they kicked up their video library and actually gave teachers the ability to pause and stop, kind of like Edpuzzle, that sealed the deal for me. So I'm going with Flippod or Near Grid.
That's cheating. No, I'm kidding. Those are two great votes, absolutely. And I like what you said about hearing the student articulate their reasoning. I think that's really important. The more video we do, even in classes like math, so important. Eric.
Yeah, so I love some of the tools that you guys all shared. I'm going to take this a different way. I'm going to go with a feedback extension. I'm going to use Moat as my selection. And I think it's such an amazing tool, because even when we go back to whatever regular teaching looks like, we'll be able to carry it back in there. But one of the struggles for me going back into the classroom is I knew none of the kids that were in my class. And I needed to find a way to build a relationship with this simultaneous hybrid learning style. So I felt like with Moat, I was able to give quality feedback to them. They were able to hear my voice. We started building this communication of trust. And it does so much more than just the feedback piece. It helps teachers start realizing that we can start pushing these projects as our summative assessments and our formative assessments and provide that feedback. So with that, it does provide you with some data. It allows you, as you go into a Google Doc or a slide and you provide feedback, you can have a transcription feature. So if you have a student that speak Spanish and English is a second language, well, you can speak in English and transcribe it to Spanish, and they can read that. They also can hear your audio. Teachers get a report at the end of every day, seeing if a student listened to it, and a student can click a diamond if they understand it. They could click a kind of a confused face if they didn't, and that's going to allow you as the teacher to realize, even if you're doing asynchronous learning, sorry, Gabriel. But even if you're doing asynchronous learning, then that's just one more piece of feedback that they can get. They're starting to bring out a STEM mode as well, which will allow you to, as a math teacher, you can transcribe your equations in there, and it will write it in mathematical terms. So that's pretty cool. So there's a lot going on with this one, and I absolutely love it. So I'm going to go with Moat.
For those listening on the podcast, Chris Nessie is saying, I love that Moat also works in Google Classroom comments. Jake says the new update to Moat that makes it work in anywhere in Chrome is fire. And Chris says duct tape on fire. Fonz, finish us out on this one. What is one tool that really impressed you in terms of how it supported learning?
Well, the one that really impressed me and for our district was definitely Kami. Kami was one that really helped our teachers engage with their students, live, sharing a digital workspace, whether it's a blank page or actually an actual PDF document of some worksheets. So the students were able to annotate. What I loved about Kami is that it integrates a lot of what we just talked about. There's the ability for the teacher to integrate video comments, voice comments also as well, and they can even do screen captures. So talking about student feedback or just explaining something to me, student can open up the PDF document, give them an explanation, walk the teacher through the steps, the thinking process, that thought process. Or if they don't want to, be on camera, they can simply record their comments as well. And they just added a new feature that just came out about 3 days or 4 days ago, where now you can drop in YouTube videos into those documents. So now you can go ahead and if you want to maybe prove a point, maybe you find a YouTube video, something of that sort, that you can go ahead and bring it in. Or for teachers that want to add an additional visual layer, a clip or anything, they can go ahead and embed that into that Kami document. So that has been fire for us in our district because we ran into those issues March 16th on. It's students were picking up packets and packets and packets, or teachers were assigning PDFs, and how do we print them? Because not everybody has a printer. So Kami came through and they've just been great customer service, but now these additional features as far as the YouTube, embedding YouTube videos, embedding any images from Google, and bringing those in really helps engage the students. So it kind of touches a little bit on like Jamboard Flipgrid, any other annotation tools that are out there all in one package.
That's a great list. So after this round of questions, we've got Scott with Google Slides, Chris Brightful, Jake Paradek, Gabriel Flipgrid and Nearpod, Eric Moat, and Fonz Kemi. Not all the big names that we always hear about. So I like hearing about these tools that maybe have escaped some educators' notice. If you're listening and maybe these are not part of your teacher's arsenals, you may want to take a look at what these resources offer. I want to move into our third question, which is this, and I knew there would be potentially some overlap here, but what do you think is the single most underrated ed tech tool right now? And instead of going across the whole panel, I'll just throw this out. Is there one tool that maybe we haven't mentioned yet that you think, man, it's not getting enough love?
Yes.
I got one. You go for it, Fonz, and then
All right. I'll throw it out there. I did a show with Kim Matina, and it's IORAD. If you can show some IORAD some love. IORAD initially they just started as, this is for business. I'm going to show you how to do onboarding, and I'm going to click, and it's going to record your clicks. So if you're an instructional tech like myself or coaches like yourself, and you want to do quick walkthrough tutorials for your teachers, your staff, your students, all you have to do is just go click on the steps, and you send that tutorial out, and it changes it to over 70 languages. You can put audio in there automatically, or you can record your audio in there. You can embed, you can do all this good stuff. So IORAD for sure doesn't get enough love. Maybe it is not known too much, but definitely check it out because it's a time saver, because you can save those tutorials and share them and edit them later and keep revising them.
How do you spell that, Fonz?
IORAD. It is IORAD.
All right. Lots at the .io domain. I don't know if there's a connection there, but Scott, you had one as well.
Yeah, I really like that IORAD. That sounds really cool. I haven't checked it out, so I'm going to be checking that out and using that. Do a lot of tutorials, so maybe saving me some time. The one I have is a big time saver too, and that's why I love it. So anyone that's used Google Preferences or something like that to generate common comments on teacher papers, or student papers, rather, student work. Let's say, you have a comma splice here. Rather than typing that in every time, you can use hotkeys or alt text with a tool called Phrase Express. And what I really love about this is it can go into any program. It can go into Microsoft, Google. It can go into the comments. So when you hit Alt-Control-M for your comments in Google, the hotkeys preferences built into Google Docs don't generate comments in there. But with Phrase Express, you can do that. Works with my LMS Schoology, and you can have all these things pre-formatted, pre-formulated in there. And then if you're a gamer, let's say by night when you're not working and you have one of those MOBA mouses or keyboard with lots of hotkeys, you can program those things into there. So if you hit like the number 1 button, it does 1 comment, number 2, so on and so forth. And so you can create these banks. And what this does is it allows you some more time to take care of that kind of busy work. So you can give some pointed comments that really help your students grow in their writing and in the work that they're doing. So you get kind of those simple things out of the way, and then you can go a little more complex with your time that you get back.
I'm seeing in the comments some suggestions about similar tools. So I've heard on Vicky, the Cool Cat teacher, Vicky Davis, I've heard her talk about Text Expander, and Jake is talking about Pro Keys, Chrome extension. Guys, are there any other tools sort of in that space of quick hotkeys that you can customize?
Those are kind of the two that I'm familiar with. I used to use Text Expander and loved it, and then Stacey Roshan recommended Pro Keys to me. Or no, was it Stacey Roshan or was it Caitlin Tucker? I'm not sure, but I switched over to Pro Keys, and they're both kind of the idea of what Scott said. Those things that you type regularly, you just build in a keyboard shortcut for them to pop them in wherever you need to. And then Brian Carpenter mentioned in the chat there the Clipboard History Pro in Chrome, which is kind of similar. It remembers everything you've copied before, so that then you can have like a rolling clipboard history of everything you've copied to repaste it. There's no keyboard shortcuts, but they're there and handy for you to grab really quickly, kind of in the same vein of what Scott's saying.
Chris, you had another one as well.
It's not in the same vein as the keyboard stuff, but another tool that I've been using that I don't think has gotten the same love is Loom, Loom. I'm glad we got the all right. Loom it's like Screencastify or some of the other, more well-known screen capturing tools. But what I like about Loom, again, I'm going to go with it's free for educators. You can sign up with and verify a school education email, and you get access to their pro features for free. And what I use it for, it's got a great plugin for Gmail. So if you're using your Google School, you use Gmail, you can record a personalized video that you can then send to people, and it will let you know when people watch your video. And that can be a video of you just on your webcam. It can be just your desktop. It could also be picture in picture where it's your desktop and you. So what I have found it to be really good for with my students is if they're absent or I need to explain something or just kind of if they miss class for whatever reason, I can send them a video to their student email. It lets me know when they've watched it, if they've watched it, and I can easily send a minute, 90 seconds of here's what you missed, here's what you need to do. I can share my screen if necessary. And it keeps those videos so I can actually reshare them. I've also used it with colleagues to send quick tutorials and some demonstrations. And again, what I like about it, one, I can get it for free. Two, it lets me know when it's watched. So if I'm sending it to one person, I'll know if and when they ever watched it. And then I can question them on it after the fact. And that's Loom, Loom.
Chris, in terms of identifying who's viewed the video, that's if they view it through the Loom platform, obviously, right?
No, well, if they get it in the Gmail and they click play, it'll register the view.
Okay.
Oh, that's interesting because I knew on the Loom site you have to have a Loom account for it to track it, but in the Gmail it tracks it even if they don't have a Loom account.
Yeah, because I create the video
Nice.
from my Loom account, so it'll register that click.
Nice.
In embed.
I know Eric and I are Screencast-O-Matic people, right, Eric? And Screencastify obviously is pretty popular, but Loom really sort of burst its way onto the scene, and I know it's got a lot of great. Can I just ask really quickly, does Loom have in-house stock music that is easy to add before you push out a video?
I don't think so.
Okay. That's one thing I like about
Screencast-O-Matic, right? Yep.
Mm-hmm. Jake, you had one as well to add to this round.
Yeah, another one. We named some like big ones early on, like we named Flipgrid and Nearpod and Pear Deck and tools like that, like are kind of the hot tools. But one tool that I'm always surprised isn't in that like echelon of ones that all teachers are always talking about is Book Creator. And it's kind of for the same reason that Fonz mentioned about Cami. And he was saying with Cami, like you could put anything into your PDFs, right? You put a YouTube video, you could put audio, you could put comments, you could put all that stuff. And then Book Creator, I mean, you could put everything in a book. So if you want to assess, does a student really understand this concept? They could go into that book and put in videos, screen record right in there. They could record a webcam video right in there. They could pop in things from other sites, and just about everything embeds in there. So I think it's just such a great way to assess student understanding because any kind of expression you want them to do could be put into those Book Creator pages. So while it's a popular and known tool, I'm surprised that it's not more of one of those hot tools that everybody talks about for that reason.
And I like that it has accessibility features too as well. So that's something that's wonderful because now, like going along with Jake, and he read my mind. I was thinking I was about to say that, but I've used it personally just to create our level 1, level 2 tutorials for our teachers, and I just embed everything in there, and then I just share the link to that book. And the students, I mean, the ability that they would have to be able to create and share their learning through different modalities, which is great. And that's what I love, whether it's pictures, whether it's audio, whether it's video, you're going to hit all different modalities and really see the learning taking place. So that's awesome. And it's a wonderful little learning artifact that you have to share,
I love all these tools that give students or empower students the ability to create content. And that's linking into all future skills. I don't like to say 21st century because we've been in the 21st century for a long time.
Old news.
But yeah, but I mean, the power of creation, that is something that is keeping these students that especially don't get the opportunity to go to school right now, on board. If they see that their content that they create is being shared and they're able to watch that and see that they're building an audience, that sells them, and that gets them sucked into this whole thing, this whole content creation thing that's going on. So I really like the fact that teachers are starting to see that, and they're starting to push that over the standard testing at the end of each unit.
I think
I got another one to throw out there.
Go for it, Dave.
I'm pretty sure we all use it too. How about Canva?
Yeah,
Canva. I mean,
What is Canva?
Canva.
What's Canva?
Yeah. I'll send that link through Netscape Navigator later.
Search Bing, Chris.
Yeah. So I've done lessons where the teachers have wanted to do something with the students or have them create something, but I don't think, kind of like you were saying, we're not giving our students enough time to create. And a lot of people don't realize that creation can be used as a formative assessment. It can be used for a YouTube channel thumbnail, a podcast cover art, things like that. These are the things that our students are starting to create. So I can think of a handful of students at my campuses who, as soon as the pandemic hit, they started creating YouTube videos and TikTok videos. And with all that stuff comes thumbnails, and you got to create thumbnails. They got to be appealing. If you're going to create a brand, you got to have your brand colors. You got to have your logos and things like that. And what better way to set up our students for future production style jobs and careers than having them think about this stuff and start creating it now. So I'm a big Canva user, so I'm going to go with it as well.
I can only assume you're using Canva, Gabriel, to set up your Rocket League Twitch channel.
Oh, yes.
yes.
I will plug that later. But yeah.
All right.
I'll just add one more. I guess I don't know how much time we've got, but
Go for
definitely WeVideo. I mean, it's browser based. Chromebooks, students going back to creation and going back to the thumbnails. I mean, you can create your thumbnails in Canva or Adobe, anything, bring them in, bring in your media, add music, give it green screen effects that's already built in that you don't even need the green screen for. And it allows the student to obviously create using video or just their audio. They're doing voiceovers. They can type over the videos, do explanations. And so definitely don't sleep on WeVideo. They're definitely awesome, and their customer service is great as well.
Have any of you seen the real-time collaboration feature in action? Does it work pretty well?
It works fantastic.
It is great.
Yeah, amazing.
Both ends have a decent internet connection, obviously.
I'm in a situation where we're one-to-one Chromebook in my middle school, and we have sort of floating iPads that have iMovie. And that's how my IT department wants kids to create videos, is using those iPads. I would love to convince them to go with WeVideo for every kid. I think it just ramps up the amount of creation we can do. But big WeVideo fan as well. Let's move on here to question number 4. What is one piece of technology that you're hoping to learn more about in 2021? Gabriel just brought up Canva. I'm hoping to make the shift over to Adobe Spark, partly because I have access to free access to Spark through the Adobe suite at my school. I know Canva is free for educators. Got to point that out again, but that's a tool I am interested in learning more about, and I've got to credit my friend Brian Carpenter, who's with us, for pushing me on that. Anyone else? Is there a piece of technology that you're hoping to learn more about and gain some proficiency in? I'll just throw this one open again.
I'll jump in real quick. Oh, sorry. Go for it.
No, I was going to throw out, and people will kind of look at me funny when I say this, but I want to get more into technology that will let me create short form content and how I can help my students create some short form, quick hitting content. If you know anything about me, I'm talking about things like TikTok and, these short pieces of media, and finding better ways to learn how to do that and take advantage of platforms like that for learning and helping students put their voice out there, whether they can take that skill and, use it again on TikTok or on like Instagram Reels, but empowering kids to put their voice out there. For many years, for me, it's been about podcasts and podcasting, and that's not going to change. But what else can I do to help students and myself learn how to do that type of content creation? So that's where I want to go.
Chris, I mentioned YouTube Shorts as well. That was introduced to me by John Sowash, and I tried my first one yesterday, but I don't know if you're familiar or if you've all sort of heard where YouTube is going, but the sounds of it, it sounds like they are trying to sort of compete with TikTok in that short form vertical video space. Anyone else? Is there another tool that you are looking forward to learning more about in 20? I guess, Scott, let's go to you next.
Yeah, Adobe Captivate. So it's a higher end tool. It's not going to be for everyone, and it does cost. It's not our favorite F word by any means. But if you do have the funds for it and you do trainings or lots of tutorials, it's really great because you can create interactive ones, and mine are pretty simple right now. I'm just learning the tool, but I'm seeing the power of the tool. Essentially what I'm doing with it right now is making asynchronous trainings where people can go in, they're interactive, trying to make them not boring and engaging by having embedded quizzes, checks for understanding, these kinds of things we would do in person with in-person trainings and webinars, but trying to recreate that experience as much as possible when people can do this after hours on their own time, in the evenings, the weekends, when I'm off and I need some time with my family because I can't be working 24/7 every day. Some days I can extend myself. So I find this as a way to multiply myself. When what I really like, and I think there's an unlocked potential that I want to explore this year, is it plays well in all LMSs. So I want to bring this into the LMS space and see how we can start using this with students, like we might use an Edpuzzle or a Nearpod, and kind of mix and match things and really play with that. I think there's some potential there.
Jake, is there a piece of technology that you're excited to learn more about in 2021?
So I had Robert Kaplinski on my podcast about a month or so ago, and he talked a lot about the Desmos activity builder, and I've never used it. And he, like, hearing how excited he was about it and the stuff he had to say about it. And I love the regular Desmos activities that are already in there and available, and the idea of making your own to kind of fit in that framework that's already there. And hearing a guy like Robert, who I really respected his work with PBL and math classrooms, it got me kind of excited about it. So I'm hoping to spend some time trying out the activity builder in Desmos, kind of similar to a Pear Deck or a Nearpod or one of those kinds of tools, but with kind of the math capabilities that Desmos brings to the forefront. So I'm excited to try it out.
Jake, that episode was incredibly helpful in my practice. I tried the marble slides activity that he mentioned, that Robert mentioned, and I like you, I want to explore Desmos a little bit more as well. Gabriel, what about you? Is there a piece of technology you've got your eyes on?
I've got my eyes on many pieces of technology. However, I'm going with bigger picture, and I too have been creating a lot of, I'm not going to use that word, but we'll say on-demand PD whenever you want. So for my,
were you going to say synchronous PD?
Just in time.
We should take a shot every time one of those words. So I've been doing that for the past month and a half, and I've gotten a lot of good feedback from the teachers at my campuses, which have turned into coaching sessions with them, which is the ultimate goal, building those relationships with teachers and that. So what I'd like to do is make it a little bit more meaningful. We've all participated in PD. The last thing a teacher wants to do when participating in a PD is click on another Zoom link after 7 hours of Zoom. They want to do stuff on their own. They want it to be interactive. They want it to be relevant to what they teach. So I think I'm not necessarily looking at one piece of technology. I'm looking at ways in which I can provide more professional development for my teachers at their own time, when they want, with their feet up, in a fun, engaging, and way that is relevant to them, that they will walk away and say, I could do that again. I can definitely do that again.
When you say, I just want to clarify, I love everything you're saying. When you say on demand, though, I don't put that together with real time. You know what I mean? So So how do you think, like, what are you going for more? Like when I think on demand, I think Netflix or YouTube or podcast, because that's when the user wants to consume the content.
Correct. So my professional development class that might be an hour or 2 hours long in content and what you're going to be providing to me, that proof that you have learned the content, that class is open from January 4th to February 7th.
Okay.
You can do it all January 4th at midnight, at 2 a.m. You could do it the day before, but you have that window of opportunity where you can do it when you want.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah, that's super exciting. And that's one hope that I've had too this year, is that the pandemic and all of the challenges that we've had with distance learning actually creates some permanent shifts in Pro D. Not that we move away from face-to-face permanently, because I'm so sad to miss our conferences and ISTE and everything else this year, but I do think we can do better in the Pro D space. Eric, what about you?
I'm going to be spending some time with WordPress. I mean, the site that Got Tech's on is WordPress, but I'm trying to make a digital hub for our school district where all digital content goes into this one place. We have podcasting, we have photography club, we have art club. So anyone that wants to publish something, they should have the opportunity to do so. So that's really the big project that I've been working on for the last 4 or 5 months, and I'm hoping to launch that in the second half of the year.
And we know our shout out to our mutual friend Jeffrey Bradbury, who's quite a WordPress pro. Fonz, over to you.
Yeah. So anyway, going back with what Gabriel was saying, and I actually popped in the tool in the private chat for him, but I'll share it with everybody. I want to learn more about H5P. I learned about this during my master's in EdTech, and it's a way for you to actually create engaging trainings where you can either make interactive videos, you can make they can make collages, essays, flashcards, and just to make hotspots, image sequencing, all this other stuff that's completely free, and it also integrates with Canvas, Brightspace, Blackboard, Moodle, WordPress, and more. Now, again, I don't get paid for that or anything, but this is definitely something that I want to come back to, because I did use it for some projects during my master's, but I can definitely see how this is going to be more beneficial for me as far as creating content and putting it out in different forms for teachers to, like Gabriel said, be able to kick their feet up and go do it at any time, and it's going to be available for them.
That looks like a really powerful suite. I assume it's a freemium model.
It's free.
Free. Okay. All right. Wow. I don't know how I haven't come across that platform, but I'm definitely making a trip back there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Fonz. I do want to keep this moving. So coming or moving this into the podcast part of everything that you do, and you all shared about your current context in education, but let's move it toward the podcast. Tell us about your next piece of content coming up on the show, or something you look forward to in 2021. Fonz?
Well, 2021, I'm really excited about my EdTech life. I mean, we've got our store up. We're sending out stickers. We're getting, a lot of people that are actually, this time they're contacting us. They want to be on the show. So I'm really excited. Right now it's just, I'm focusing on just the teacher experience. This past week, we had my friend Mel, who's from Australia, taught in Taiwan and taught in Colombia, and just getting different perspectives on teaching, on the culture, not necessarily just talking about how the pandemic affects, but just seeing those teaching differences. And so next week we'll have my friend Billy from Monterrey, who was a pharmacist or started pharmacy school, then went into education. And so just learning that process, how everything's changed, what happened, how they fell in love with education because they're wonderful educators. And it's just seeing things through that different lens and through that teacher experience. Oftentimes, we don't take that time to appreciate where people are coming from. And that's really the focus of the show, is just getting our guests to really be known by others and really see who they are, not just the great things that they're doing, but just how they fell in love with teaching and how they've just fallen in love with what they're doing. So I'm just really excited about that, and just thankful for the continued support, and especially of you gentlemen that are here also, that I look up to and that I learn a lot from. So definitely a lot to learn, and really excited about 2021.
1,000 subs, Fonz, in 2021?
I hope so. I hope so. It's slow, but it is what it is. To me, it's just like a good friend of mine said, just click record and put the content out there, and that's it. If I get the 1,000 subs or not, it's all about me being happy with what I'm putting out and just bringing, somebody something that could be, useful. Because like my friend Albert Thomas said, somebody's always watching for you to do that one thing that can definitely change, their path as well. So hopefully, even if it's just one person that gets a positive effect from this, I'm good with that.
Yeah, well said. Inspiring stuff, and I love your content. Love everyone's content here. I mean, that's why I invited you to join me here this morning. Eric, over to you. What have you got cooking?
We're starting to prepare for our Major League Baseball draft. That's an episode that's a little bit later into 2021, like March. So that's pretty cool. We are also starting a new podcast in 2021. It's going to have to do with the flops in education and how we learn from them. So this is going to be more of a interview style podcast. We're not really known for our interviews, but we're going to reach out and explore that space a little bit. So we're pretty excited about that podcast coming up early in 2021.
All right. And I love the tag team that you pulled off with TNT EdTech. Looking forward to more of those. Gabriel.
Yeah, I've got my next episode is Tell Me What's in Your Tech Bag. That will be dropping in a couple weeks. I put out a Flipgrid link. It's on all social media platforms. I'm going to keep blasting it out there because I'm very interested. I'm that weird guy in Costco that's looking through people's carts. Like I'm intrigued by what people buy and why they buy it. So when I see people at conferences, I always wonder what's in their bag, why, or if I see them pull something out of their bag, why do they carry that? Or I didn't realize that's a really good idea. So I have that coming up on deck. And also EdTech Bites in Espanol is officially dropping in January. So EdTech Bites in Spanish. It's not my show and going to be on the same feed. It is a completely different show that I'm going to be hosting with its own RSS feed and everything else. So it'll be a completely different show. It's not going to be episodes in what's in your cart. It's not going to be, an episode on the EdTech Bites feed. It's going to be a whole separate one. So I've been toying around with that idea for quite some time. And then I had some personal things come up. And then, I've got a high schooler and a middle schooler as well, both in band that have been, and I got to shout this out. My son's high school band, Claudia Taylor Johnson High School here in Texas, competed in the 6A Texas State Band competition for the entire state and won on Tuesday. So as a freshman, he is a part of that competitive marching band, and they brought home the trophy, the first school in San Antonio to do this since 1985. So I got to shout that out. Big shout out to my son as well. So that's what I got going on. So
what does he play?
What's that?
What does he play, Gabriel?
He plays the tuba and the sousaphone.
Nice.
Tuba.
Brass.
Yeah. Congratulations. Congratulations to him. I don't know if he'll watch this content, but that sounds amazing. Want to say your question about what's in your bag kind of scares me. I have to abstain from that one because my bag just accumulates cords and adapters and plugs and junk over the course of the term.
And that's
I have to empty my bag of all the nonsense that's accumulated in there. But Jake, sticking with this question of what's coming up next on the podcast, over to you and EduDuctape.
Yeah, so mine kind of goes off that what's in your tech bag kind of theme there, because I have my next guest is one guy who I love to look to see what tech tools he's using, because he's kind of one of those creative masterminds, and that's Claudio Zavala Jr., and he is coming up on my show first week of January, and he breaks down for me all of the creativity tools in Adobe, which I didn't know all of them. I know the Spark ones well, Spark Video, Spark Post, and Spark Page, but he kind of breaks down for me and for the listeners what Adobe Premiere Pro is and Adobe Premiere Rush, and what the difference between Photoshop and Illustrator and Fresco, which was totally new to me, and Adobe Audition, and breaks down all those tools, because I love those creativity tools to let us hear from our students, hear their voices, see their creativity, and have them creatively express themselves. And if there's anybody that's going to tell me about what tools to use for that, it's going to be Claudio, because he is a mastermind of that kind of stuff. So I'm excited to have that one on.
He's got such a smooth, silky sound. Love his show. I don't know if he's still doing. Is he still doing his live YouTube stuff, Jake?
I think he is. He's pretty active on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Every
Chris?
Tuesday he drops a video.
Yeah. All right. Okay. We've got a faithful subscriber. Chris, over to you.
As we're recording this, I'm getting ready to release episode 170 of the House of EdTech, and that will be the 7th annual House of EdTech App Smackdown. Eric is a part of that. Eric sent a contribution in, so there's some guys on the podcast. And in this episode, you will hear from myself, Derek Larson, and people like Eric and some others. And the episode will feature over 20 recommendations, things people are loving in EdTech here in 2020. And that's one of my favorite episodes to produce. And then I will take a 3-week break to enjoy some needed downtime, and we'll fire the House of EdTech back up in January. And I'm looking forward to, like the Fonz, having great guests, having great conversations, amplifying people's voices in a way that you only get with me.
Love it. And Scott.
Yeah. So a lot of good content in the bank that's coming out. In fact, Jake has an episode coming out any day now, so be looking forward to that. Thanks again for your patience, Jake. Totally lagged on that. 2020's been crazy, but I'm ready. So I've not only survived 2020, but I'm ready to thrive in 2021. So on Education Today, have a STEM series that's coming out also, and we just had our 12 days of Christmas for educators on both podcasts. We did a little crossover. Check that out. Join the conversation at flipgrid.com/noons, the number 12, and the word days. And on YouTube now, thanks to your model, Tim, at Mr. Noons Teach.
All right. Thanks for that shout out. I want to conclude by going around one more time and just let people know where they can connect with you. And keep in mind, we do have a podcast audience now. That's a recent change here on my content. So for those listening by audio only, make sure they can connect with you and tune into the content you're putting out there. I'll go back to you, Scott.
Yeah, say that again. Sorry, I was reading the chat, Tim.
No worries. No, I know it's distracting. So going back around one more time, just let listeners know how they can connect with you. I know you've got a few different Twitter accounts that you'd like people to follow and so forth.
Will do. So follow me, Scott Noons, at Mr. Noons Teach. That's probably where I'm most active on Twitter. You could follow TNT EdTech Podcast at TNT EdTech, and Education Today Podcast at Education Today, and then the number 8 because there were 7 other ones.
Chris.
Very simple. For anything related to me, go to chrisnesi.com, and that's NESI.
Fantastic. And Chris, tell people about Podcast PD. I know it's not really in the ed tech space, but
for that one, that's a podcast I host with Stacy Lindis and AJ Bianco, and it's all the learning you'd get in a faculty meeting or on a PD day, except you'll have more fun with the 3 of us. And for that, you can go to podcastpd.com.
I told AJ I have a phone alarm set up to remind me that Podcast PD is going live. Jake.
So you can find most of my content on my site at jakemiller.net, and there's links to the podcast and everything there as well, and on social media at Jake Miller Tech and all of the social medias. That's why I was so overwhelmed when somebody said YouTube Shorts, because I'm like, another social media thing to deal with, but you can find me on all of them.
It looks like YouTube Shorts is going beta in India right now. That's what I found on Google. And when I say going beta in your YouTube app, at least in my app right now, you don't see that option to create a short. So I think they're just trying it out in India, if I'm reading that correctly. But as John Sowash pointed out, you can list your vertical video as a short if you include the shorts hashtag in your description or title. But Jake, no pressure at all. Gabriel, over to you.
Yeah, you can find me at edtechbytes.com, Twitter and Instagram at edtechbytes, the Facebook page at facebook.com/edtechbytes. And you can actually find me on Venmo at, no, I'm just kidding.
Well, if you're the only one who says it, it might be positive.
Eric.
All right, you can find me on social media at Geis Got Tech. Everything else, podcast, blog, YouTube channel, all that stuff, you could find at gottech.com.
And Ponce.
All right, everybody. So you can find me on Twitter at MyEdTechLife or at TechTeacher1381. And for all your listening pleasures, you can go to myedtech.life. So www.myedtech.life, and you'll find links to all the rest of the social media there as well. So you can watch and listen to all our episodes.
Fantastic. And you can connect with me, you can connect with me at Teachers on Fire on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And of course, tune into this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other podcast player. Come back here next Saturday and every Saturday, as long as I can keep this going, as long as I continue to have permission from the KB CFO, every Saturday at 8 a.m. Pacific and 11 a.m. Eastern. Thank you again to my guest today. This has been a ton of fun, and I've learned a lot as I look down at my notes here. I've got a lot of tools to check out and think about how I can implement them in my practice. And as Jake likes to remind us, it's not about the tool, it's about what it does for learning. So educators, I hope this has been helpful for you. Take care, and we are getting to that time where we say Merry Christmas, Feliz Navidad, or however you celebrate. I hope you are enjoying the holidays. That's it.
Festivus.
Are we going to do a dance? Are we going to do the Tim Cavey dance?
Yeah. That's right.
Hey, that was amazing.
That was awesome.
Kudos, Tim.
Get out your victory celebration dance and make sure to tag me. I'll be happy to retweet that and share that out there. I think that was a lot of fun. Thank you again, all of you, for joining me. I really appreciate each of you, and you inspire me. Take care, and let's talk again soon.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye,
Tim.
guys. Happy holidays, everybody.
Take care.